Now, there's a new appointee to the head of, I forget the name of the commission right offhand, but talk about this new appointment and what this means.
Well, the Environmental Protection Agency, our federal environmental agency, Obama basically got to clean house, and we are just in the last few days getting the appointments to head each of the 10 regional EPA offices. And for Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico, that's Region 6, and the headquarters is in Dallas. We heard about in the end of April that there was a lobbyist who was working for Waste Management for many years, who's worked for a lot of the oil companies and other waste companies, that was angling to be appointed to that position. His name is John Hall. He had been appointed by Ann Richards when she was governor to head the state environmental agency. But after he did that, he went and cashed out and got at least $6 million from these firms to do their bidding. And Obama, his first action when he got into office, the very first day after he was sworn in, he signed an executive order saying he didn't want to put lobbyists in charge of the federal government agencies. So we raised this issue immediately and came out and organized a whole group of folks to oppose John Hall's appointment. When he was at the State Environmental Agency, the Clinton administration had appointed him the head of an environmental justice task force. They didn't even let the task force choose their own chair. So people were very concerned because he had issued rulings when he was at the State Environmental Agency that really harmed communities, poor communities, and communities of color. So they knew him from way back. That was long before I got to Texas.
And once again, what's his name again?
John Hall.
John Hall.
And so our first effort was to oppose John Hall, and he asked to sit down and meet with us, which we did. I didn't really convince hardly anybody that he would be a good appointment. Then we started interviewing the other candidates who were putting their name forward, and we wound up sending a letter to the EPA head, Lisa Jackson, that we supported Al Armendariz and Ron Curry. And Al Armendariz got the appointment. He's a professor at Southern Methodist University. He's an environmental engineer, and he's worked briefly actually at the EPA. He's worked at MIT, and he is the one that really blew the whistle on how much pollution was coming from the drilling for natural gas up in the Fort Worth area called the Barnett Shale Formation. That his calculations showed that that drilling was contributing as much smog-forming pollution as all the cars in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and perhaps even more than that.
Wow.
And the State Environmental Agency said, oh, that couldn't possibly be the case. And they hadn't done their own research. And when they finally did do some of their own calculations, they had to backtrack and say, well, in fact, Dr. Armendariz, his figures looked like they were right. He's worked with groups fighting the burning of hazardous waste in the cement kilns in Midlothian, and he's really been a scientist that community groups and environmental organizations have turned to for assistance. And so we're thrilled that Dr. Armendariz has gotten this appointment. I understand he'll start after the classes end at SMU. But he's really, I think, going to be a voice
now,
for environmental protection.
Is this a czar-like appointment, or is this one that you need confirmation?
This does not need confirmation, but he's basically supposed to implement the federal priorities of the EPA in the regional office and get information from what's going on in the region to address how are the states not living up to the federal laws, or what initiatives at the state level maybe should percolate up to the federal level.
I ask that because there's been these campaigns to oust anybody who's progressive or anybody who has an activist background, usually coming from the opposition in the form of Fox News as one of the leading opponents. What do we do to protect this gentleman, Mr. I'm going to be bad with his name,
Armendariz.
What do we do to protect Mr. Armendariz, to to make sure that he's able to carry out the needs of the communities?
That's a good question, because there have been kind of witch hunts already when it comes to environmental advocates and other progressive advocates within the Obama administration. I would say that we need to make sure that he stays on task and that he is getting results for the people of the states he's overseeing. I mean, he is an academic who's been around the block many times, so I would be surprised if there's something in his background that, that the Obama administration didn't vet. But we need to make sure that he's staying on the job and doing what he's